Are you a professional woman who wants to create passive income streams and financial freedom through real estate investing? Join us here on Real Estate Investor Goddesses, hosted by Monique Halm. Listen to women who are rocking it in real estate investments as they share their stories of success, failures, and best advice in real estate investing. Start creating real wealth through real estate. Tune in today. Here's your host, real estate investor, syndicator, and developer, Monique Halm.
Welcome to the Real Estate Investor Goddesses podcast. I am your host, Monique Halm. On this show, I interview amazing, badass women real estate investors. And today, I am so excited to be interviewing Abbie Thomson, who I met a few months ago at FinCon, which is one of my favorite conferences. It's for money nerds like me. And we meet up for women real estate investors. And I was just so impressed with her. She is a CMO of Thomson Multifamily Group. She is investing with her family, with her dad, and they are syndicators investing in multifamily. She's been able to effectively communicate the company's goals and mission with all involved at every stage. And she brings a young perspective that creates a fresh and new dynamic to the group. She's only 22 and she's been in the business for 2 years now and is doing amazing things, innovating and has, I wish I'd started. I wish I'd started at 20 instead of 31 when I did. And then but I'm just really excited to have her here and welcome and introduce her to you. So welcome, Abbie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. That was a wonderful introduction. I might make that some of the things that you just said actually part of my bio. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. So we were talking a little bit before I hit record, and you were sharing about how you began in this doing this. But share for our audience, like, how did you get started in real estate investing?
Right. So as you said, I am 22, and I did start pretty early. I started when I was 20, but I became interested in real estate through my dad. He has about a decade of single family experience, and my freshman year of college, I was really interested in going to law school. But in between that transition, I really wanted to take a gap year and travel, but I wanted to do it on my terms. I wanted to be able to just go over there and pick up and go wherever I wanted, do whatever I wanted, and not have to worry about money. And one day my dad came up to my campus, we had dinner, and I was telling him all of this, and he goes, well, I'm not paying for that. If you're going to Europe, then I'm coming with you. And that's the only way I'm going to fund this adventure. He's like, I want to go to Europe too. So I'm not going to just pay for you to travel the world without me. And I was like, crap, well, I don't want to take my dad on my around Europe. Like that kind of throws a kink in my whole plan. And he goes, well, you need passive income then. And I was like, okay. And then at this point, I was so uninterested in real estate. I had seen my dad doing all of these single family appointments and these gross houses that he was walking through, and just saw all that nastiness. And I was like, that is the last thing I want to be doing with my life. But once we hit that moment of where I was like, oh, passive income is actually kind of cool and helps you a lot in life. It was one of those moments where I'm a teenage kid in college where I'm hitting my head against the wall saying, man, my dad was right, like, darn it. And then about 2019, he was deciding to transition his business into entirely multifamily. He really wanted to do a very dramatic shift and sell off his entire portfolio. And in turn, learning about multifamily, he took me to a few of his conferences, things like that. And at the end of one of them, he turns to me and says, would you like to partner together? I think that you bring a lot of skills that I lack, and I bring credibility and the ability to build a business for you and a career for you long term, and you can help me retire or help my parents. I can help my parents retire. And so it was kind of just this perfect magic moment of stars aligned, and we decided to partner together, and the rest is history. Now I'm here.
That's incredible. I love that. And so I often see, husband-wife pairs. So you're the first father-daughter team that I've encountered, and I love that. So you, from that moment where you decide, where he's like, yeah, do you want to partner together and do this business together? What have you done so far in the past couple years?
So most of my focus and what kind of was easiest for me to do while I was a student still was, and things that I naturally was just good at, was a lot of the more creative aspects. So we started our own podcast, which I was grateful to have you on a few weeks ago. We do a lot of investor outreach and things like that. Like I built our website. I take initial investor calls. I do preliminary numbers. I do kind of the back end, and he's more of the front man. At the moment, we are working on doing more partnerships, as now that I'm full-time. I just recently graduated. So I'm no longer balancing this act of being a student and running my business. So I'm starting to transition myself out of some of the more business related tasks and moving more into the strategy and relationship building aspect of our business. But that was what I started on. So I started working on how can we get our business out into the world? How can we start sharing our message, and building an audience of people that relate to what we're talking about and want to maybe partner with us on investments. Awesome.
So what was the first deal you guys did?
So we recently actually just closed on our first property, and it was a 76 unit, or it is a 76 unit in Irving, Texas. So It was a big accomplishment for both of us.
That is awesome. And you're in Dallas.
Yes.
And so you got, tell us a little bit more about this particular deal. How did you find it, and when did you, just the process of acquiring it?
So sourcing this deal, we built relationships with local brokers, and then we just underwrote hundreds of deals until we found the right one. And my dad and I like to joke that this was a little bit of a street fight to actually obtain. It's very complex in how the previous owner ran their business. It was a little bit old school. So being able to underwrite it and understanding our numbers and data was a little bit more challenging. So we just spent a good amount of time diving into the property. We're local, so we were able to understand the market in a deeper level because I've lived here my whole life. He's purchased real estate, single family real estate around the area hundreds of times. So we had a very in tune idea of what this property already held. And then we understood how we can also add value. It's an extremely, extremely tight community on this property. And we knew that as long as we kept that functionality of the community in sync and then just added to the property, there's a ton of kids. So we want to put play areas for those kids, and just finding those small opportunities to enhance that was really going to be our biggest play. And we were eventually awarded the deal, and it worked out. But it definitely was a huge, huge adventure and learning experience. And we're definitely putting a lot of those lessons that we learned towards our next deals and continuing those relationships and understanding the team that we need to run our business. Because if you're not in real estate, you won't understand. But if you are, real estate is huge with the people that you're working with, the relationships you build, the people that you interact with, everything. It is all about those people. that are touching your business at any point. And so it's really understanding, that was probably one of the biggest lessons we learned, was understanding who we were working with and then how to mutually benefit each other. And then that was honestly the biggest success point.
Yeah. Awesome. That's so great.
Yeah.
So you haven't been in the business too long yet. And you're still growth in the growth point, and starting to learn how to, or getting into the meat of your first deal. But perhaps you've made some mistakes already. So what would you say was your biggest mistake, and what did you learn from it?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. So I would probably have to say understanding our capacity. So when we jumped into this, my dad and I are very action-oriented people. Mm-hmm. So we tend not to plan things in advance and kind of just see where it takes us. We've gotten a lot better as we build a business, but initially that's our main reaction. So I think when we jumped into many of the things we've done within our business, including our deal, is we needed to fully understand our capacity when it comes to investors, when it comes to actual work power and how much time we can put into that, all of that. And then understanding our limitations with stress and dealing with so many moving pieces. In single family, it's the same concept, but transitioned into a whole team instead of just you and maybe a hard money lender and the seller. Like that's maybe 5 people working in a deal, whereas in this process, we were working with 20 to 30 people on a regular basis. And having to juggle all of those pieces were a huge stress point. It was a huge pain point on our whole team. And then not being able to cope with that as well, and understanding what the expectations are, understanding how to look into the future and plan for the things that we do need to plan for. Not knowing some of those steps and what to anticipate was probably one of our biggest mistakes, not reaching out to more people and getting that information ahead of time. We were kind of just in it, and then we were going, oh, that's a huge issue, and essentially putting out fires constantly. And you're on a time crunch too. So it's just like 30 days of just the worst 30 days ever. For at least that was our experience, because we just didn't have enough anticipation of events. But now we are on the flip side, and we do understand the process way better. We have developed systems and processes and ways to handle all of those situations where it doesn't impact us as much. And then now we understand our capacity of capital and our team and things like that, to where the next deal we go into, we're able to better suit not only our business, but everyone else, to where it just goes so much smoother.
So I guess if I'm hearing correctly, just the biggest mistake was not anticipating all the things that you would have to do. And so what you learned from it was how to create systems, how to, and then obviously you've learned, having gone through it for the first time, what's going to be expected of you and what you're going to have to do.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So what are you most proud of?
Doing it. That's essentially it, is being able to take that action, not letting my fears or my doubts or whatever is kind of going on in my head to stop me. As a young woman in real estate, I've experienced this, and this is my personal experience, but a ton of imposter syndrome and a ton of fear and a ton of doubts. Like I'm really young. This is me setting up my life, and I'm typically one of very, very few women in a room of networking events. And even when talking to teams and acquiring projects and things like that, majority of the people you're conversing with are older and they're male. And
gray-haired men.
Exactly. And I like this and don't, but there's a huge advantage to being young and a woman, but there's also a huge disadvantage to being young and a woman in this industry. I typically get doubted and people don't take me as seriously. And that doesn't bother me as much, but when you're an entrepreneur, it can feel really lonely. It can feel you have more time to allow some of those things to kind of seep in and impact your actions. And so I think one of the biggest things that I'm most proud of is simply not allowing those things to actually stop me and continuing pushing through and breaking those boundaries and get almost overcoming my own personal fears and growing in a huge way. I have seen massive changes in who I am in the last 2 years simply because of what I'm doing. So that's probably what I'm the most proud of.
You should be proud of that. As a, with my group and with my mastermind, a lot of women that otherwise have felt like, what do I do? And it takes this, it's a huge hurdle to come over to, when you are the only woman in the room or one of the only ones. And then also with you being so young and, sitting across the table from a bunch of silver-haired guys, men. I totally, I resonate. And that's something that, in our program, in our masterminds, we spent a lot of time like dealing with that. Like, how do you overcome that fear? How do you it's like being who you're becoming, so you can show up in that way. So it's great for you for doing that.
Thank you.
And to what do you attribute your success?
That's a good question. I think how I was raised and the people that I surround myself with in my inner circle. I tend to get in my own head, like I just said a second ago. And I think that the first piece is how my parents raised me. So I grew up being surrounded by entrepreneurship and seeing that. And I think that I really resonated with that aspect of life and I loved it. And so that's a huge piece, is that I feel like what I'm doing is what I'm meant to be doing. I feel like this is my purpose. And then almost kind of piggybacking off of that, like my purpose drives me. And so therefore I am using those things to be successful. And if it's already inherently inside how my mind initially works, it's pretty easy to wake up every day and do my job and push through those moments of, is this really going to work? And then the people I surround myself with. So I work with both my parents, and regardless of what happens or mistakes made, anything like that, I know that the two people that I interact with the most are there to support me and love me unconditionally and are going to be there no matter what. So it's so much easier to get through some of the hard moments of, oh, we worked so hard for this deal and then didn't end up getting it. Okay, that's okay. We still have each other. Let's go on to the next one kind of moments. And so it allows us to be way more successful. And then additionally to that, we all complement each other really, really well. It just, I don't know how it works, but it does. And so that has helped us really a ton to be driving forward and growing our business, because we all have our own roles inherently, and it just works. So I feel like those are the two biggest things that attribute to my success.
I love that. And it's so great that you're able to do this with your parents, and you feel like, I mean, how many people have partners where they're like, I know I'm unconditionally loved, right?
Yeah.
So with that, then, that brings a lot of confidence, and
oh my gosh,
and
so much.
that's beautiful. That's great. Are you an only child, or do you have
am,
siblings?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I wake up every single day so grateful for what I do. I truly am living a dream. I don't understand how this possibly happened to me, but it is, and I'm obsessed with it.
I love that. That's so great. And what advice do you have for a woman who's just starting out in this field? You're a couple years into it. Yeah. What advice would you have?
Learn as much as you can, listen as much as you can, talk to other women and hear their experiences. And yeah, those are the biggest things. Is I think I started gaining confidence in what I do and this industry in general when I started talking to other women who were years ahead of me, who were successful, who had families and were still doing it, who overcome those hardships and they leaped over that hurdle. Seeing all of that and showing myself, okay, they can do it, I can do it, was so powerful. And so many women want to see other women succeed. And so you learn from those people. You're able to see what they've done in their business and kind of apply some of those things to what you do. And then hopefully everyone is successful together. But that was the biggest thing for me, was I absorbed as much information as I could and tried to reach out to as many women as I could and surround myself with that. Because like last week, I was literally the only woman at an event. And I had to have been at least 10 years younger than every single person there. So entering those rooms, and that's the norm. Like that is my
That's
typical,
why I started my group.
Right. That's the typical experience. So being able to be a part of groups very much like yours and talking to women one-on-one can be so powerful and so inspirational and motivating. And then just do it. Just jump. So many women hold themselves back because of whatever it is, family, wanting stability, wanting a different career. They are so inherently able to self-sabotage themselves. So putting that all aside and just going and just do it. Do what you want.
Love it. Okay. So what do you wish you'd known at the beginning that you now know?
You don't need college.
That's true.
That's probably the number one thing that pops into my head. I was a student when I started, and I just like, once I was in my business, I didn't want to be there anymore. But if you're already there, one thing that I wish I knew before was relationships. Relationships are extremely crucial. I am naturally very introverted. And so I'm having to go against my personality in order to make my business work. And that's okay. I don't mind. I really enjoy having conversations like this with other people. It's what I'm passionate about. But it can be a little draining, but understanding that those relationships are huge. But also finding a balance of not needing to please every single person that you work with. That is something that I've noticed my mom and I struggle with a lot, very frequently, is, and we put a facade almost of not burning bridges, but you can't do everything where everyone is going to be happy, or there's never a across the board winning situation. And so it's understanding that and still being able to cultivate and build relationships, but not feeling like you need to please that person all the time. You still have to do what's right for your business, do what's right for you, and having that balance.
Awesome. It's great advice. Before we get into our famed end of show Trinity, which is a brag, a gratitude, and a desire, how can people find you or find out more about what you do and connect with you?
That's a great question. So the best place is probably our website, thompsonmultifamilygroup.com. And my last name does not have a P in it. So it's THOMSON, multifamilygroup.com. And then we are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and all of those are great resources as well. Again, all of those are under Thompson Multifamily Group. And then we also, like I mentioned earlier, we have a podcast, Next Level American Dream. And that is another really great resource to understand kind of what we do and hear some conversations that we're having as well.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So now it's time for your brag, your gratitude, and your desire. What is your brag? What's one thing you're celebrating?
We just celebrated, I think it was 30 days of ownership of our property, which was a huge hurdle. And we're starting to now get the ball rolling on a lot of things that we had planned for the property. So that's been exciting. And we're about to prepare some of our first investor distributions, which is also extremely celebratory. So that's probably my biggest brag at the moment.
Well bragged. And what's one thing you're grateful for?
My family, probably. Being able to do this and my business, like my entire life, I'm pretty freaking grateful. My parents have allowed me and given me so many opportunities to be able to do what I'm doing right now and build the lifestyle that I want for myself in 10, 20, 50 years. So I'm really, really grateful.
Awesome. And I have to ask, have you made it to Europe yet? Did you do your...
No, I haven't. I started my business, and that became my passion. And so my Europe trip is a little bit on the back burner. But I have plans. My ultimate dream is to live in Italy for like 3 months. So we'll make it happen one day.
Okay. Look out for that. All right. So last but not least, and maybe you can share that, but what is one desire?
Growth. I really want to grow my business to where it's almost functional without me. Right now, I'm very in on daily tasks, and I would love, my biggest desire is to be able to pull away a little bit. The reason I started this business was to build the lifestyle that I wanted for myself in the future. And a big part of that is being a big family woman for myself. And so being able to grow enough in this will be pretty amazing that I look forward to in a few years.
Awesome. Well, so shall your desire be, or so much better than you can imagine.
Well, I hope so. We'll see where life takes me.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Abbie, for coming on. This was great. I'm so, I was saying at the beginning, I'm so impressed. You're 22 and doing so much, and you really, it makes me super happy to see young women like you doing such amazing things. And I know that what you're doing is inspiring so many others. So especially those who are like, I'm too young, I can't do that. It's like, so
don't limit yourself by age, for sure.
You're a great model and example. So y'all, you can connect with Abbie Thomson at Thompson Multifamily Group. So that's THOMSON multifamilygroup.com and Thompson Multifamily Group on all the socials. Connect with me at reigoddesses.com. One of the things we were talking about earlier is that, to grow, it's important to learn. It's also important to be around other incredible women doing this. You don't have to do this alone. And we have a wonderful community and programs and events and investment opportunities, all of this to support you to getting into the game and getting into the next level and getting to financial freedom. So definitely find out more at reigoddesses.com and subscribe and like and join us next time for another amazing Real Estate Investor Goddesses podcast interview. Bye-bye.
You have just listened to another episode of Real Estate Investor Goddesses, a show dedicated to sharing stories of women creating real wealth through real estate. If you found value on what you just heard, feel free to share with your friends. Visit us at reigoddesses.com to learn more about our programs and live events, as well as to access other resources. Until next time.